Peno the Black Pan has deployed a very wonderful trick in the South African digital world. Amongst being a writer and a very published one at that, he is also the most recognizable skeptic in the South African intellectual sphere. But Peno is a self-proclaimed narcissist.
What do you mean our land?
There is no economic emancipation because the land is still owned by those who owned it before. In terms of real social emancipation,
Which jobs? Because I know he's fighting for governmental jobs. He's not fighting for more businesses to be created.
I hope we can all come to agree that economic emancipation is the freedom for everyone to climb up the economic ladder, independent of any legal or political restrictions. Now, to use monopolistic ownership of land in white hands as a primary form of black economic restriction would require extensive evidence on Freud's part.
We aren't affiliated with a party now. If they want to work with us, then they can. But as of right now, we're not going to give an endorsement. But we'd say that the parties that we are mostly leaning towards, parties that are free market based, are parties that are mindful of the business aspect of the economy. Yes. And don't just side with the welfare state that much. That's about
the incompetence of young men. They made exceptions for such as what could be an appropriate example? The social relief grant, the 350, the unemployment grant. That's a grant that we wrote about and we made a video about the welfare man at YEDIBE, which basically cites that similar systems such as those policies basically subsidize the incompetence and the lagging of young men.
I think to go back to Keith's initial point, he was speaking about, you said that there are different denominations, and this one does this, and then this one does this. He's saying that what caused the practices to be different in the first place, not whether or not the differences exist. I think we
Hello, family. If you're watching this episode and you don't like it, share it. It's probably intended for the next person. Stick around for the next one. It's probably for you.
Back at it like what you simply married.
Always. On this episode, we've got a special one. We about to be educated and schooled, big time. We have the YEDIBE.
Yes, towards this year end.
Sedibe.
And we are the founders of YEDIBE.
Okay, so my question is, where does YEDIBE date back to? How did you guys decide to start up this whole YEDIBE?
YEDIBE dates back to the 2024 elections. We were just speaking amongst just the both of us, just having casual conversations. And then at a certain point, we realized that we were saying things that we would like to hear, but we didn't hear them in the mainstream media. So we just thought that we'd just start something of our own and then share what we see lacks in the market. Yeah, that was the whole point.
Yeah, and another thing was when around the time of the election, I came up with the idea that we should create some form of group where, we can get the youth engaged in politics, some form of group. And then he boiled it down to something like our own thing. Then that's where YEDIBE came in, as in like, okay, we'll establish some form of a media company that comments on SA politics, religion, and culture.
Conservative specifically.
Conservative.
They don't want to be our News 24, whereby we are neutral. We wanted to be clear as to the message that we were pushing. If you call it propaganda, you can call it that, but it's our point of view. And it's established. It's a Christian, conservative, and free market point of view. Yeah, that's what we believe in.
Sort of biased platform, basically.
Yes.
It's a biased platform.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very biased.
It's very biased.
So it's your view, basically.
Yes, that's the point. We wanted to eliminate neutrality. Yeah, we don't want to beat around the bush like, I'm not sure whether Malema is a good candidate or not. Well, we just wanted to come out and then state it clearly that we disagree with what you're saying. And it's not like we don't want to hear your point of view. That would be very nice. But in terms of acting like we are going to entertain whatever you're saying, that is a falsehood that is perpetuated in the South African media space. Everybody wants to be neutral. We are not neutral. Far from it.
Yeah, and
Far from it.
and our famous saying is that neutrality does not exist in the pursuit of what is true, good, and beautiful. You cannot be neutral when you pursue those things. You can't be on the fence. You have to stand for something. Yeah, stand for
Either
something.
you're right or you're wrong.
Yes,
Yeah,
stand for
right.
something or fall for anything. That's YEDIBE in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
Yeah.
That's YEDIBE.
If I may ask, because you are Yende and he's
Yes.
Sedibe, is it like the combination of Sedibe and Yende
Yes.
came
Yeah.
to Yedibe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yende Sedibe.
Yeah. This is-
Just remove the S.
Yedibe.
You have YEDIBE.
Yeah. It's actually Sedibe, so that's why it's Yedibe instead of Yedibe. Yeah, well, just so that there's a balance of the two surnames.
And YENDIBE doesn't sound that good. It doesn't sound that good. Yeah. So yeah, that's to be specific, it was around June. It was around June when it was official. I think the 5th of June. Yeah, we gave birth to YEDIBE.
And we were very excitable at that point. We were just looking at the landscape, and then we saw that something is happening, especially with the GNU, the DA, and the ANC. The ANC just moving a bit to the center, of the politics game, and then meeting the DA and the IFP. We saw that something exciting was happening in South African politics. That was actually tangible, as opposed to here's a video of Ndlozi singing a song or something. So we are in unprecedented territory right now, and we are just taking advantage of that point.
History.
Yeah,
Yes.
history in the making. Are you guys into politics?
Nah.
Oh,
What party are you guys like into? Like you guys
Go.
We aren't affiliated with a party now. If they want to work with us, then they can. But as of right now, we're not gonna give an endorsement. But we would say that the parties that we are mostly leaning towards are parties that are free market based, are parties that are that have a that are mindful of the business aspect of the economy.
Yes.
And don't just side with the welfare state that much. That's about DA, about
Freedom Front Plus.
Freedom Front Plus. Yeah. So those are the guys. IFP. Those are the guys that we are leaning towards now. Not ANC, not EFF.
But between those three, we are much more fond of IFP.
Yeah.
Because they are much more calculated, whereas you have Freedom Front Plus. They are quite extreme because they embody straight up capitalism. They're like, we are pro free market and all of that. We are, but then we realized that in South Africa there has to be more of a gradual approach to it.
Yeah, there's a gradual approach.
And then IFP sort of resembles that. So yeah.
The DA and the IFP. I think the issue that we have with the DA, and the reason why we don't want to tie ourselves with the DA so much, is their soft stance on social issues. When we released a piece about them, I think a month after the establishment of the GNU, is that the DA, every time there are social issues like our LGBTQ plus rallies, they are the guys who always want to hold the mantle. I saw on Twitter one day, I think it was a week ago, they said that the mayor of, I think, let me not say the mayor because people will fact check me, one of the representatives of the DA wants to hold the Pride March at Cape Town in 2028. So those are the social issues that don't allow us to attach ourselves with the DA as much as we want to. Because on the economic side, they're a very strong party. But on the social side, it's very, yeah, they are very, yeah, they're very progressive on the, especially abortion and all of those
They
things.
make a lot of exceptions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you make one exception, then you have to make most exceptions. You have to accommodate
What
everyone.
is not an exception to you guys in your view? According to the economy in the South African way it's supposed to be led, and where you guys think the elders or the people that are abasiphethe basirongebo when it comes to exceptions.
Exceptions. Well, the exceptions they first made were the introductions of the SASA systems.
Yeah.
They made exceptions for the lagging of groups, the incompetence of young men. They made exceptions for such as what could be an appropriate example? The social relief grant, the 350, the unemployment graph. That's a grant that we wrote about and we made a video about the welfare man at YEDIBE, which basically cites that similar systems such as those policies basically subsidize the incompetence and the lagging of young men. That has detrimental effects on our behavior and etc. Because it increased the rates. No, besides the unemployment rate, it increases the rate of fatherlessness within black families. And fatherlessness families tend to be not intact as they should, which, became a domino effect. Like there were more crimes because young men had much more freedom and they didn't have that guidance from the father.
That was also the problem that we had.
Yeah.
It's the definition of freedom that is the definition of freedom and equality that South Africans hold. Because if you are going to tell me that my body, my choice, and you're going to tell me that the government must spend money to subsidize our bad behavior, then you have an odd definition of freedom. And once we get that wrong, then a lot of things are going to go wrong downstream.
Right.
That's how you get the effects that he spoke about. Our definitions of things are very wrong. Equality is, all of it is just bad. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
I saw on one of your episodes I was just skimming through it. You were talking about God penal.
Yes.
Penalism.
Penal the serpent.
Yeah, the serpent. What was that about?
Well, Penal established a religion.
Established.
Yes, 2018.
His own religion.
Yes, his own religion. That's why he calls himself Penal the God.
Yeah.
2018, establishes religion. Then he goes ahead ranting on YouTube and, telling us the values of which penalism holds. We were just dissecting those values and penalism as a whole, trying to, I don't want to say unpack, but we were breaking it down and finding its cracks, and singling them out and explaining why those cracks are there and what they lead to.
Yeah, and we should also understand that we are living in a digital space. So when somebody speaks of establishing a religion, I think we are so used to shock that when somebody makes that claim, they expect some of us to just keep quiet and then go along with it.
Yeah.
So and it's very provocative. It's a provocative statement to make. So that's why we had to. Sometimes, man, you don't want to react to things.
But
We just had to.
You know the effects of it. Like you can see where it can go. So you
Yeah.
have to counter it.
Yeah, we have to counter.
Because Dostoevsky is a Russian philosopher. He made a great quote. He said, "Every man is not only responsible for what he does, but for what every other person does. That's what he's responsible for. Not for himself only, but for what everybody else does." So we took it upon ourselves to counter it.
And the reason why we had to respond is that we don't have a problem with somebody claiming that they are God and establishing a religion. People do that. People are heretics. The problem that we had is that he wanted to advertise his religion as a better alternative to it was a better alternative to Christianity and other established religions. But when people speak about other established religions, what they're actually speaking about is Christianity. But you don't want to say Christianity because you don't want to offend people too much. But the way that he characterized Christianity itself was just it was inexcusable to us. That's why we had to react to it. We just had to react to it.
So also in one of the videos, he was like, the religions we have is outdated.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
but-
what he said.
and
Outdated.
That's what he said.
And one of the things that we said there is that if he is going to create a religion of relevance, then his religion is going to be relevant to the times, but then something like the Roman Catholic Church is relevant to all times. So that's a huge difference. That's a huge difference. That's a huge difference because values aren't sought in the air. You don't get wisdom from the age. You don't get wisdom because it's in the age. Some things are just eternal, and for him to just act like something like religion can be outdated is laughable. It's laughable. Yeah.
So to update,
How are you gonna update values?
Would you call it a cult in some sense?
Yes,
cult.
yes. I'll come out and say it. Penalism is a cult.
That's also a nod to him. I think that's what he'd want us to say. So yeah, we'll call it a cult. Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
And
yeah.
he actually, when I posted the thumbnail on Instagram, I tagged him.
Yeah.
He came back days later and liked the post actually. But I don't know if he watched the
We
video.
don't know if he watched the video.
But he liked the post.
We hope he watched the video.
Hope he watched it.
We hope he watched
He
the
did.
video.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also standing for something. Back to the model. Yeah. That's what it is.
But what are your guys' stance on politics? Do you think it's more of a failing system that fails you, fails us?
Yeah.
What's your
When
take?
it comes to politics, my guy, I just see a system upon another system upon another system. Whoever's gonna be in charge, they're gonna want to inflict their system on us.
Yeah.
And so on, with their own agendas, not thinking ahead, which is 3 generations from now, how is the country gonna be and so on. Say for instance, is the corruption. Apparently ANC is famous for that. It's very famous for that. I think they got too greedy with Amaten.
Yeah.
And so on. So much they come up with Amaten left and right and so on.
Ndlala.
Yeah, indlala. So I feel like experiencing that in Sakula, I was like, as it was on my politics, is not for me.
I was gay.
And it's in the end. But then the other thing, it been shying me because now
Yeah.
I'm the one who needs to see the future.
Yeah, it spells duty.
Yeah.
It spells duty. And we felt like we need to take upon that duty, take it upon ourselves and, face it head on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but in terms of, Vusi Tembekwayo once said that the ANC was more of freedom fighters than politicians and governors.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that had a detrimental effect because they got the power. The comrades got the power.
Yeah.
And then when it was time to govern, it was like,
Yeah.
what's next, Rudy Shasha?
Yeah, because that's one of the observations that Thabo Mbeki's brother made. He said, I'm sorry, but the freedom fighters were people who studied through Bantu education system. Yeah. So
Which
some
is a
things,
poor
yeah,
system.
Which is a poor, that's an observation that he made. I'm not sure that I agree with it, but I'm just that the tools that are needed to start a revolutions are different for the tools that are needed to maintain an economy. Yeah. It's very two different things.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
different things.
We love Mandela though.
Yeah, we do love it.
Yeah, we love Mandela.
Oh, seriously, dude, it's not sarcasm or something.
Yeah.
Seriously, dude, yeah.
Then what's this thing about Mandela effect? You heard of that?
Okay. I think what happened with Mandela is people assume that, okay, not people assume. People, I mean, the ANC used to be a socialist party until about 10 years before democracy. The ANC used to be a socialist party. So when Mandela came out of prison and he sort of attached himself to some neoliberal policies, then it seemed like he was a changed man, and then he was underneath the control of, I don't know, neoliberal
White oppressors.
white monopoly capital. So what happened in that is, I think it's a pattern of sorts. It's a symbolism. It's a symbolism of sorts. Is that when something happens in reality, mythology surrounds it. Mythology surrounds. We are people. We love myths. Yeah. It's inherent in us. We love myths. We'll always attach myths to.
Yeah,
We love myths.
quite superstitious.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a very innately human thing to create stories, even about significant parts of our history. We can't help but do it. Now they'll tell you that Ramaphosa is underneath white monopoly capital. That's
Some white mafias in
somewhere. We don't know them. You don't know them,
Yeah,
but somewhere.
It's always they.
white mafia.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're there somewhere.
They are oppressing us. They don't want us to be rich.
Yeah.
You know,
Who?
they're keeping black people down,
Yeah.
which is a false narrative.
Yeah.
It's abhorrent. It's not true.
This is conspiracy.
But it's natural.
The reason why people are poor is because of their culture. In most cases, in some cases, it's because of the government, the extreme policies.
Yeah.
What do you mean it's because of their culture?
The values of which those people hold, their lifestyle, their lifestyle choices, and their morals.
Because when we studied the 1980s piece that was published by UKZN researchers, which claimed that the Europeans used to trade. I mean, the Africans used to trade with Eurasian communities, which is Europe and Asia. And what would happen is that they were introduced to tools such as the wheelbarrow, the wheel, and various other tools.
The wheel.
Yeah, the wheel.
It's
That's very
like
fundamental.
a wheel, a simple wheel.
A wheel.
They introduced them to that.
Yeah, but they failed to implement it in their communities. It was largely based on, especially in farming. Women used to. Okay, this should not be interpreted as being implemented on a whole scale African nation, because this Africa is consists of various clans. So it's not a narrative that should be planted all over Africa. But most African tribes were very conservative in their nature. So women used to tend the land. They used to work in the fields, né? And then men used to become warriors and whatever. So what happened is, sometimes the woman, I mean the tools such as mowing with livestock, which needed wheels, couldn't be implemented because Africans were conservative in their culture. Because umfazi uyosebenza le, indoda isebenza le, man works there, woman works there. So that's culture, and that's an obvious narrative. That's culture.
Yeah.
That's an obvious example. That's culture.
They rejected innovation, essentially.
For culture. Yeah. That's culture.
And that's the same thing that made us, susceptible and vulnerable to colonialism, apartheid. Our culture wasn't that developed, so it was much more easier to, penetrate our systems. So yeah, that's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
It's not the main reason, it's just one of them. Yeah. There's much more to it. You can go for hours about history.
And there's much more to culture.
Imagine, we never had history at school. Where did you learn all of these things?
YouTube. It's just this platform. It's YouTube.
University of YouTube.
University of YouTube. You've heard the saying. It's YouTube.
And
It's
books.
YouTube.
And books.
And books.
Yeah, don't forget books.
And movies. Yeah.
Specific movies though.
Yeah. Because they will.
Such as?
I'm not a fan of movies.
Let's say
Let me rather say
documentaries. Yeah. Documentaries.
Yeah.
What books would you recommend?
For history specifically, or just philosophical
or political.
To get me on the right path for truth.
Mm.
Your
Jeez.
opinion.
The thing is, when I started out reading, I started out with the really complex books. Really complex book, and I was like 16 years that time. So I started developing from those books. I never started like gradually and like, let's say, you see those easy books saying economics in one lesson. I never got to read those
Beginner's
books.
guide.
I came right into your Friedrich Nietzsche's, something really, really complex.
Socrates.
Yeah, Socrates. So giving you something that's like a stepping stone, I really can't say. It's hard to find one for you.
I think just read stories. I think that's the best way to start. Just read these hard thinkers. Just start there and then
Well, you know what?
yeah.
Listen to Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson.
Yes. Like literally anything you want to know. See, like Jordan Peterson on marriage. A video will pop up. Just listen to him, lend him your attention for like at least 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I know that our generation has like a 15-second attention span.
Went from 1 minute, now it's
To
down to
15 seconds.
15,
Yeah.
read TikTok,
TikTok.
15 seconds.
Swipe up.
swipe up.
It's done. So yeah, it limits your attention. Just give Jordan Peterson a few moments of your time and then you should be on the right track, I swear. Mm.
Should you guys vote?
I mean, I voted. It was capitalism in my home. I had to vote because my mother's here.
So you had to.
Let us begin.
You had to.
Let us begin.
What are your thoughts on EFF? Yes.
Honestly, from the masses' view,
Yeah.
it's like they're fighting for our land. They're fighting for freedom. It's
Our-
they're
Like
fighting
basically.
they're fighting for the youth.
That's
which
how
is why I call it youth.
That's how it seems, yeah.
It's from the masses' view. And so now I want to hear from
Your perspective.
Woody. Where did that reaction come from?
What do you mean our land?
Our land.
Yeah.
That's what he said. I should be asking him that. I should be asking him that. He says that. Our land.
I think our land is the worst way to look at it. I think our land.
And he's fighting for jobs.
But
Which jobs? Because I know he's fighting for governmental jobs. He's not fighting for more businesses to be created. So one reason.
And most of political parties fall into that rabbit hole of saying we want more employment. But when you delve deeper, they don't really know what is it exactly that would enable more employment. Whereas they turn a blind eye to the free market. And that's exactly what invites employment more than anything else. The free market.
Businesses being able to operate
freely.
No, as free as they can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Attracts foreign investment, domestic investment. Businesses
more businesses are built.
Yes, more built and they become more efficient. Which enables a more business-friendly environment, which leads to more employment.
More
like employment is the effect that comes after. It's the effect that comes after.
So South Africa is the problem that South Africa has is that they have placed more importance on the worker as opposed to the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because the moment that workers have more rights than the entrepreneurs, then there are more workers to work, but there are fewer places to work at. So this is the problem that we have. But in terms of the land issue is a problem. Because people, I don't know, it's an emotional argument. And I understand where people are coming from. It's an emotional argument. But
it's an easy dream to sell.
Yeah, but when you look at the data and the land that white people own and the land that black people own and the land that the government owns, then we can come to a solution. But if you're gonna use the 7%
slogan,
the 7% slogan, which is based on skewed data, and it wasn't quantified properly. They didn't come to that number properly, because if you use the method that they use to calculate that Black South Africans own 7% of the land, and you use the same method on white people, then the figure for white people would come to 11%.
Yeah.
It's bad math. It is.
Calling it out as it
It's
is.
bad math.
Yeah, it's sheer ignorance.
It's sheer
It's sheer
ignorance.
ignorance. They never read the papers. What was that paper again?
Check out SAIRR land percentage, and then you'll get all those numbers, because the figures are misconstrued. Yo, it's very bad.
Yeah, it's
is
it's
very
really
bad.
easy dream to sell. They stole your land.
First of all,
Everybody's just gonna
is
follow.
it your land?
Then you get
People
agitated.
migrate.
Yeah, bro.
It's not your land.
And there was a lot of vacant land back then.
Yeah.
There was a lot of vacant land because we were quite isolated. You know, you had kingdom of Zulu clans, which were quite isolated in and of themselves, because you saw in the documentaries we were quite concentrated in one kingdom. Then another kingdom would
Communal
be
lands.
there.
Communal
You
lands.
have to travel to another kingdom. Then that land is vacant. It's just vacant. It's not your land. Yeah, bro.
It's vacant land.
Yeah, bro.
It's
Just
not that we are denying that there are cases where land was stolen from
Yes.
black people, because everything has to be assessed on a case by case basis. But you can't just say white people stole our land. Now you are dealing with a huge problem. Where? Who was there? So it's not as
How?
easy as that. How?
and why?
The why is the most painful part. But
Yeah, because you might find out that they stole the land and gave you a better life.
yeah.
You know, because if I were to ask you the question now, are we better off now than the times of Oboshaka Zulu? Is the life we're living now better than the life we would have lived back then? Economically, socially, and the opportunities that you have now. Digital.
Moving into that.
Innovation wise, you know, a lot of factors I can count. So I would ask you, are you better now or are you better back then?
I wasn't alive back then. Maybe if I was dead back then, maybe.
Yeah, but yeah,
According
this
to the way the economy is moving, I think we're better off now. In the sense,
Yeah, we are better off now.
it
Because
is.
them just landing here accelerated our technological development by
Tenfold.
it's not even decades, centuries.
Yeah, centuries. Yeah.
We were centuries behind. So it's not that they didn't do bad things.
They did a lot of bad
They
things.
did a lot of bad things, but we did too. It's not like people who were sitting here in South Africa singing Kumbaya, holding hands.
You know.
It's far from the truth. We were fighting amongst each other. It's not like we were one united group.
Yeah, one happy family. Yeah, there was a lot of clan wars,
happy family.
tribalism. Yeah.
Yeah, history is complex. History is complex, and it is emotional. But you should try to become as rational as you can when you approach it.
Yeah.
I have a more, I wouldn't say complex or any. I have a question for you guys, right?
Yeah.
So, we're speaking about history right now. And from what I'm taking, right? And I know there's this one saying that says history is written by a victor. So
Okay. No, you'd answered it best, because you remember when I sent you the paper about the Nigerian scandals,
Oh yeah.
and then you said white people only answered to.
Oh yeah. This is a very Nietzschean idea. So it's all about those who are in power, are those who can conjure up the narrative of history. And I don't think that's how it is. I don't think that's how it is. Because when you look at the Brits, let's take the Brits came here, and then the land was filled with black people, and then they wrote down there was no one here. Nah. who are they answering to? The Brits are answering to the Brits. Because if you are going to look at a history in a cynical way, you should also be rational about your cynicism. Is that if these people are trying to uphold their moral standing when it comes to colonialism, who are they trying to uphold it to?
Yes.
Because the British didn't answer to anyone else. The British answered to themselves. So they had no reason to lie. Plus, the British were fine. Let's use the Pura. They answered to no one. They had no reason to lie. They had no
Because
reason to lie.
the same history that they were recording in the Cape Colony is supposed to go back to England, to the Queen.
To the Queen.
And you want to make sure that what goes there
It's
is what's true. Yes.
Yeah.
The
Queen wants to know.
So the colony can be better organized and, data can be 100% truthful.
Yeah.
Hence why the colony was big as it was. They want no, there was no one in Zululand. And then, it was there's no such thing. No.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
And how many documents are written about one empirical fact? So 100 generals are gonna record one thing and it become a propaganda machine that one day when the British monarchy falls, at least we'll be the good guys. I don't think that it stands. I don't think that logic stands. It does not stand, I don't think. Yeah. So I'm just trying to ask people to not be cynical about history, because these people didn't move from where they came from, especially the British, where they came from. We're like, oh, we wanna oppress these people. Nobody. How are you gonna move out of England, Britannia, and then come to South Africa, which has some of the harshest conditions, Africa in general, which had some of the harshest conditions of that time, and then just to oppress people?
it's really short-sighted.
It's really short-sighted,
Very
and
short-sighted.
it's cynical. It's cynical. Yeah. So yeah, history is negotiated. Not one man writes a story.
So if I want one of those t-shirts, where can I get one? Is the merch out?
We have a specific merch, but this is the new.
This is what
Oh, this is for the founders.
yeah.
Oh, exclusive. Okay,
Okay, gents.
Okay.
Okay. With the merch. This one is high value t-shirt.
Okay.
Okay.
It's gonna be good for your YEDIBE.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect for you.
Do so.
So I'm thinking that I should basically discard that whole history is written by the victim.
Step
Yeah.
one.
Because how far are you willing to take that narrative? You also gonna apply it to Shaka Zulu. You also gonna yeah. So when you get there, then you become nihilistic, because you end up not believing in anything, just because you think that every history lesson that you have is a power game. As to the person who wrote this one, so this is obviously false. No.
And then everything just becomes
And then
a lie.
everything just becomes false.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. So Hitler wasn't bad, man. It's just that he lost. That's how far this is gonna go. Yeah. It's not an ideology that you can carry with you very
Hitler
far.
was bad.
Hitler
Yes.
was bad.
Yes.
Can we at least agree on that?
That was an example.
Can we agree?
Not something
Can we
he
at least
believes in.
agree on that?
That was an example. It's not something he believes. Hitler was
Disclaimer.
evil. Yeah, he was evil.
Yeah. There's this other thing I heard, man. They were like, the person who's very evil sees himself doing justice to the world.
Thanos.
Thanos type shit, Thanos type mentality.
Thanos.
So like, I don't know where to take this question.
I never followed up on Thanos. I can't
Okay,
comment on that.
don't comment on Thanos specifically.
Or the idea that someone evil sees
The
himself.
mentality. I give him like Hitler, for instance. In his eyes, in his view, man, most definitely he was doing justice.
Most definitely, he thought he was doing justice.
In his view. In his view. That's what he thought. Allegedly, I wasn't there.
Are we sure?
I wasn't there. But then I'm assuming, right? I'm assuming that's what happened. So, in the sense of where our economy is going,
Okay.
do you think they are doing justice by us? Not saying that they are evil. But do you think that they are doing justice by us?
Um, it has been self-evident that they are not. They know. They know. I swear they know that this economy is falling apart. They've tried everything and they see that it's not working. Hence why, they were more open to the negotiations to a more decentralized government such as the GNU. But in terms of now, the GNU, I think they are progressing something towards a just way of governing. Hopefully. Because I don't know behind closed doors what are they, planning, whether they sitting down and they're like, now we're about to raise taxes. Now we're about to kill businesses, evil plans. No, I don't think so. I do think that they are progressing towards something more of a better economy. Yeah.
So after 4 years.
Do you guys buy this whole coalition government thing? In the sense that
What do you mean by buy? Because I think it works better than the ANC alone. Yeah, I think it works
I
better
also
than the
feel like
ANC
mind
alone.
your ANC has somebody to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
As
corruption,
before.
basically, that they
For corruption.
yeah.
Yeah. A more decentralized government is more ideal because we don't want the plethora of government. We don't want excessive government where it's not even necessary. What we believe in is less government. We're not saying that we don't believe in government at all, that government shouldn't exist. We believe that there should be less of it. It should be decentralized. So yeah, that's what we believe in. But I think the GNU works better than the ANC alone.
Yeah.
Well said. Big news. Trump just got elected. What do you guys think about that? We actually made a reaction video where they
Yeah.
almost shot him dead.
That's
Yeah,
the last
yeah.
video. That's the last video that we watched.
We were watching it earlier.
before we left home.
Before we left the house, we were watching
You guys.
guys'
We
reaction.
were watching you guys reacting to Trump getting shot.
And that setup was quite good. That setup with connecting the video to the TV. That was quite smart. Trump winning. That got me some words thrown at me. The ones I read earlier. Yeah, it was a good day to be alive. Trump made history. And Trump is more of a pragmatist. Trump can say women are ugly, and then when you look at his economy, it's much more effective. And then he's much more pragmatist, whereas whatever he says, it may be a bunch of bullshit. But what we care about really is how you run the economy. And we want the results. And we saw that under Trump, So America is heading to a better place under Trump, hopefully. I believe so. And in terms of its benefits for South Africa, we are planning on sitting down as YEDIBE and analyze and reflect upon his victory and what it can do for us.
And what we can offer them.
Yes.
Because America is a big country. Yeah, so you must have something on the table.
Yeah. And Ramaphosa is
Warming up, man.
is busy sleeping around with Russia and China and them. And Donald Trump is not very fond of China. So there might be conflict. There might be, but we will address it as YEDIBE in the few days to come.
So what happens with these two governments, whereby it's the DA and the ANC, is that one is leaning towards the east and then the other is leaning towards the west, because the ANC has a long history with Russia. They'll tell you that Russia gave them weapons to fight for liberation. So that's why you see the ANC going to the Global Council to speak up against Israel, but they won't go to the Global Council to speak up against Russia.
Against Russia,
Yeah.
yes.
And then you have the DA on the other side, which is fond of the West. It's fond of America. and it's not very fond of Russia. So when we have these two parties who the one likes the East, the one likes the West, we have a good harmony between those two parts. And then we can build a strong economy because we are in emerging markets. The moment that we start to pick sides in wars, then we limit our growth
And trade.
exponentially.
Yeah, and we limit trade. Yeah.
We limit trade. So don't pick sides and just invest and trade. That's all that we want.
We just want to trade.
Just trade.
You can fight your wars. We want to trade. Oh yeah.
Import and export. Goods and stuff.
That's just those two elements. Yeah.
Anyway, the whole thing.
But politics are quite interesting, Jen. So
Yeah.
someday you should think about it. Yeah.
You should hold debates.
Should hold debates.
You should hold debates.
Not even about politics, no matter which topic.
Yeah.
Let's debate.
Exchange ideas, and yeah, you might find something valuable in there. But was it Einstein? Einstein said politics are far more complex than physics. And yeah, we're coming back from that side. We came here to tell you guys it's true. It's true. It's really true. There's no formula there. There's usually no formula there. There's no formula whatsoever. X does not equal Y or whatever they say in maths. No.
Yeah, it's complex.
And you can't experiment because when you experiment and your experiment goes wrong, you have 50 million people without jobs. Yeah, bro. And 50 million lives are ruined. You can't afford to experiment loosely.
Yeah.
It's really a complex and tolling field.
And that's one of the reasons why we like to be so villainous towards the EFF is that their experiments have been tried before. The EFF presents itself as a Marxist-Leninist party, which means that they lean towards an economy that looks like 20th century Russia, where hundreds of millions of people were killed. So
because of the failure of that economy of Russia.
Yeah. So when you look at that and then you come back and then you look at that empirical evidence and then you come back and then you tell me that something wasn't tried properly.
Yes.
Then I don't think that I have any obligation to have any empathy towards you. I think that's why. Because we are dealing with real things and real people's lives. Because as small as we may take what we are doing now, somebody might listen to what we are saying and then take it to heart and then actually change their lives based on whatever political ideology that we hold.
Yeah.
So when the EFF, as large as it is, spews as much garbage as it does, then we are obligated to do that. Otherwise, we have people who are ideologically possessed in the wrong way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah.
in the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah. And those your Floyds and your Malemas, people that follow such people and follow the ideas of Marxist-Leninism and socialism, communism, they come up and say, no, capitalism doesn't work. We don't believe in capitalism because, socialism and communism hasn't been tried properly.
Inequality.
And the question as YEDIBE, what we would ask is, okay, why would socialism work?
Theoretically.
Why would it? We have multiple countries that have tried it. It failed multiple times. It does not only fail, but it kills millions of people and leads to oppression and authoritarianism. So why would it work?
Yeah.
Against that evidence that I just told you now. And then the reason why capitalism works is because we have multiple countries practicing capitalism.
America.
New Zealand. Britain is moving to Asia.
It's now moving towards.
Yeah, it's getting bad. It's getting bad.
But then
Singapore,
Japan,
Chile.
Russia? Does China also
Russia is okay. There are China.
Yeah.
China is state capitalism. That means it's a capitalism that is heavily regulated by the Chinese government. Yeah, I think that's what I'd say with China.
And their economy is mostly centered around the SEZs, which are the special economic zones, whereby it's zones where business can freely operate. And those zones tend to
capital.
produce a lot of GDP for the economy.
Which is why we get a lot of things made from China.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and-
that's capitalism.
And that's capital. And then people come out and say, China is ruled by a communist party. China is communism. And look how great it is. Look at its GDPs and all of that. And when you boil it down, which is where is that GDP coming from? They've loosened the
Market regulations.
market regulation. They've loosened the foreign investment and those special economic zones.
Yeah.
Without those, and then it's just the Chinese Communist Party and their economy.
China is only communist by the name.
Yeah,
Only.
it's just the name.
It's just only the name.
just the name.
Such as Vietnam, they use the name to invoke a sort of unity amongst the working class. Yeah, because real communism is what was described by Karl Marx, is the sharing of resources equally amongst everyone who belongs in a nation. I mean, that's socialism. But communism, Marx says, is summarized as the eradication of private property. Private property does not exist. Everything is owned amongst each other. Now people sort of glass through that. Like, you don't understand how many implications that has. It's
And they sell it as we are all going to be equal under communism. That's how they sell it. And then you check the results. It's like, well, we were equal after we died. And we died. A lot of people died. So yeah, don't try
We're
that home.
going to talk about Russia, but
uh,
whether it's dictatorship or communism,
Capitalism.
yeah. This is not a full thought. Something that I found out. I don't want to speak extensively on the subject matter, but the Russian government has heavy involvement in the Russian economy. That's why you see Russia has a lot of elites and a huge gap, and then to the working class. Yeah, so it replaced the oligarchies. That's what I'd say about Russia now. But I don't want to speak extensively about it because I haven't been that interested in Russia,
Yeah,
except for our trading relationship with them.
they were quite interesting back when there was Stalin and who's this guy? Lenin, which were the guys who introduced and ran the Soviet Union, the Communist Party. Yeah, it was interesting because it was socialism at its biggest form
Ever.
and you saw the effects to it. Not interesting in a good way. It was interesting because you'd see the
very
real
bad.
effects and how it played out when it was practiced.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Because if
now
because if communism is an ideology that tries to equalize every man and put them on a level playing field, then it assumes that equality is a virtue, and that's one of the things that we have been trying to nail down in everybody's head, that this idea of equality of all men in all areas everywhere is very illogical,
immoral.
and it's immoral. Yeah, it's very illogical and very immoral.
It basically it dissembles the idea that you as an individual you are sovereign and capable. Whereby it's like it just flattens you, whereas there's no sovereignty of the individual to strive. You can only be equal with anyone else, with everybody else, according to their standard.
And
So it's really tyrannical.
You need people in a higher place to have competition.
Yes, you need competition. You want to give everyone equal opportunity,
not equal outcomes.
not equal outcomes. Yeah, and that's what the free market does. That's what the free market
It's
does.
chess here. It's sort of like you say that we must play chess, but nobody wins. It's against what humanity is.
Nobody wins. Yeah.
Nobody wins.
In its simplest form. Yeah, that's well put.
Nobody wins.
Yeah.
So it's a very compassionate ideology. That's why most people who speak for communism are very, are very people who are more on the emotive side of arguments. They're like little children when you ask them, like, don't you want all of us to have the same clothes, the same food, the same shoes? And they're like, everybody's happy, but that's not how things work in the
Yeah.
natural world. I have no obligation to love you more than I love my kids, more than, yeah. So inequality does exist on every level, and the economy just happens to be one of those levels. And if
Yeah.
you try to rig that game, then you make things worse for people who are actually poor.
Yeah. And
There
it
was this other video I saw on Instagram. Yeah. They were like, we actually, sorry for saying this, Mara, it's the video. They were like, I'm quoting the video. But like, we actually need drug dealers. We actually need depression, economic depression. We need people to be elite, we need people to be poor, because that's how economy runs. You cannot run an economy if everybody is on the same level of equality. So, like when it is depression, who actually made more money back then? People who were on drugs. The drug dealers were making money. So much GDP was still on that level. So that's what the video was stating.
Okay.
I
I
think-
think I'd agree with the fact that we need the elites and then we need workers, but I don't think that the drug dealers, yeah, the drug dealer part, yeah.
I think what they were saying is we need freedom for everyone to exercise their will. But the benefit of the doubt is given to the citizens of the country that they have morals and values which they uphold. And that when you give them freedom, they are not going to,
Use it unwisely.
use it unwisely. Nobody sits here and wishes he could kill 10 people right now. Unless there's something wrong with them. There are morals which impose themselves upon individuals and people that you have to believe in. So what that video says, I think it says that what we need is freedom for people to strive and exercise their free will.
Yeah, we need the ability to go up, just like we need the ability to go down.
Yes.
If I can dream of being successful, then I can deal with the consequences of being unsuccessful. Now, if you try to tell people you can only go up, we'll catch you when you come down, then then it will never work.
Ilama grant.
It will never work. We'll catch you. It will never work. How many are you gonna catch?
Mentioning workers, so what's your basic take on that? Does that now limit the thinking capacity of those that actually want to go and apply for jobs? I mean, so basically,
Because it limits the competence.
It does. I don't think it limits it. It subsidizes it. It subsidizes the incompetence. And one take I have on the grant is we're not coming out and saying we're going to close all grants. We're not coming out and saying that. But let's say, for example, the child support grant. If you are in a relationship with a woman now and you impregnate her, what the child support grant implies that she can afford to end that meaningful relationship she has with you because there's a grant that will step in ahead of your role to support that child. And that just demolishes the idea of depending on people and the idea of establishing fatherhood, establishing families and meaningful relationships with people. You see, so it just diminishes that whole idea, and it's like grant.
And on the economic side, we spoke about the free market and capitalism. It's very hard for businesses to operate in an environment that has very high inflation. Like if you print millions and millions and millions of dollars every year, just to give away into the economy. Then you flood the economy with too many rands, so the price of things go up. So giving away money is never a solution.
It's not a thing.
No.
It's never a
Speaking
solution.
of that, ne? There was, oh, I don't follow Elon Musk, but please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't follow politics. But who's this nigga? Ramaphosa. He had like money stashed in his furniture. What was that about?
I never followed it up. I heard he has piles of cash under his couches. I was like, well, it must be money which is different from the money he has in the bank. It's definitely money that,
But then at the same time, he's not just a president, he's a businessman too.
yeah. But I never followed up on the piles of cash under the sofa.
Yeah, I won't speak about that example specifically, but what I would say is that one position takes precedent over another. You are a businessman and then a president. You are not a president and then a businessman. So one is more important than the others, and he should act like it. I think that's all I would say. And if it is a criminal offense, then he should be prosecuted.
Yes.
But other than that, I don't think it's a complex solution. Complex problem. Yeah, I think that's what I'd say.
It is Mpuma.
Shut up.
Takada, or Takada.
Yeah. Mpo, you'll know that guy.
Botachada.
Yeah, we were watching his episode not so long ago.
Last night.
Yeah, last night actually. Waiting for this one.
Sounds like months ago.
Last night. So what the nigga said, which actually had me asking a lot of questions, right? It was like, kahle, manje, the economy is led by old people, whereas it should be led by the youth.
And the only way that the youth could participate in the economy and actually own businesses is if the barriers of business entry are lowered. Until that happens, the same old companies that have been operating in South Africa will continue to have monopolies. Just now, you see, we are moving into fewer and fewer gas stations. Yeah, it just costs more to open businesses, and you have Abu BEE, so it just stifles the economy. It just makes hard for businesses to establish themselves, just such as the inflation that I just spoke about. Everything is just more difficult for emerging business people to actually penetrate those bigger markets, because everybody now is a small business owner.
Yeah.
It's very sad and people have made a virtue out of owning a small business. It's not a virtue. Owning a small business is an unfortunate thing.
It's a great start.
It's a great start,
It's a wonderful start.
but most people stay there.
Very small business.
Yeah, and that's not why we're in it.
Yeah, South Africa is very heavily regulated. There's a lot of regulation which turns away many businesses from coming down here, even investing, or even opening one, even opening a branch. Yeah, businesses don't like regulation because they limit trade and all of that.
That's why Elon Musk couldn't. That's why Elon Musk couldn't operate here, because they say they want black people in management positions. Yeah, so those things, there are only certain companies who are willing to tolerate it and who have the money to actually uphold those standards. So now it stifles the economy. Yeah, it's very bad. Yeah, it's very bad. But we'll get there. I think the GNU is a step into the right direction. For now.
Let's give it another 100 days.
Peace. Alright.
But hopes are high.
Hopes are high. I mean,
Awusenalo
you guys should open a party. Maybe.
Are you guys considering that?
Have you considered that?
Well,
50 years old.
50 years old.
Yeah. When I'm 50 years
I
old.
think we'll inspire someone to open a party.
Yeah.
We'll inspire someone else to open a party. But as of now, it's not in our eyesight. No.
And everything in South Africa is also a monopoly. So Oh, MK. Man, the MK is a.
Dog,
Hey man,
like,
it's
how
it,
did
it stems.
MK
It's
Dog,
okay.
how
Before
did
you,
MK how did MK just like if it is all and then all of a sudden it's in high levels, dog?
It's the same thing with Trump,
Yeah.
but Zuma failed.
cult-like figure,
Oh, cut like figure.
cult-like figure.
Trump did it, Zuma didn't,
Yeah.
because Trump
Strong policies.
had strong policies, and Trump had a run 2016 to 2020, and then Biden had a run. Trump came back, he won. Zuma had a run. Ramaphosa stepped in. Zuma came back. He didn't run. So Zuma is a populist, and people are voting for Zuma and not the MK. Most MK, seriously, most MK supporters. We believe that most MK supporters never read the MK manifesto. They do not know what MK stands for in its core value, but they do know Zuma for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, okay, my question to you guys is that was the country better off run by Zuma or by Ramaphosa looking at the growth?
I think the fact that South Africa's electoral is run on parties and not individuals, I think separating them is more difficult than we think, because Zuma is ANC, Ramaphosa is ANC. If we had a system like the American one, then differentiating between the two would be much more easier. But now it's the ANC and the ANC.
I see.
Yeah, it's the ANC. Because if you don't do what what they want you to do, you will step to the side. It's just what it is. You are a representative of the party, not your individual convictions. That's the problem with this party system. So yeah.
But I do think that I'll come out and say that I don't know who ran the country better between Zuma and Ramaphosa. I cannot differentiate.
Well, let's look at inflation, for example. That explains a lot. You want to look at Forex, no problem. We look at the rise to the dollar. Back then in Zuma's time, look at it now. Unemployment rates. I mean, load shedding. So it's a. But I don't want to sound too cynical, yeah.
We're actually focusing on what's happening in real time. That mind you, the economy is moving this way. We're not actually seeing the good that has been happening.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to add on to that is that now, mind you, it could have been a pendulum effect of what Zuma was doing.
Zuma was doing, and then it. Oh yeah.
I believe that in ANC they inherit each other's. I just think
They
that
inherit the party's ideology
they just
at
inherit.
that moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So
embody it. That's all.
yeah, when you look at Ramaphosa, he came in and then he had COVID as he extended the welfare grant system, the one that he called the COVID relief grant, and then now it's a permanent grant, which speaks to the inflation. Yeah. And then in terms of load shedding, Ramaphosa was worse than Zuma, but it started underneath. Okay, it accelerated under Zuma. But the mistake that the ANC government made was hiring an idealist in a position so reliant on empirical data like electricity. Andre Van, the white guy who used to white guy, the Caucasian man, the Caucasian man who used to manage
The white
ESCOM,
guy.
was an idealist. He wanted to move away from coal and then flirt with renewable energy, and he failed. And then he gave us one of the worst years in our country's history. And then since he has left and the ANC has shifted more into coal, then things have become better. That's why it's hard to differentiate between the two, because the parties are so
Then when do the Guptas come in?
the Guptas come in.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's based on that corruption that you spoke about.
Nah.
Yeah, it's just corruption.
It's just corruption.
Well,
It's corruption.
He's my friend. Let me give
He's my friend.
Yeah, there were loopholes which could be exploited,
Mm.
and they didn't waste any time. So yeah, that's how it came about.
Yeah, and I think we should consider moving into a stricter legal system when it comes to South Africa.
Define
Because
Not governing, legal.
yeah,
Legal
yeah,
system.
Yeah,
yeah, well, think so that we can actually prosecute people.
Mm.
It's not very difficult. When people have an opportunity to commit crime, they will do it.
Mm.
They will do it. It's not that difficult. It's just that they found themselves in that I wouldn't say favorable position, but they found themselves in a position whereby they could actually do something like that, and they did. So yeah, it's just a legal system. Criminals will always exist.
Okay.
Yeah, criminals will always exist.
and another thing that the ANC has done is basically eliminate meritocracy. The idea that you will be judged based on your merit as an individual, what you have achieved, etc. Not because of your race, not because of whatever,
Agenda.
not because of your vagina, or not because of your penis.
Yeah.
You know, hence why they introduced the triple BEE. You know, black based whatever economic empowerment.
Yeah.
It eliminates the idea of meritocracy because now you have a thing of you will get business opportunities just because you are black and because of some form of unjust history. And then, well, it sounds good, but then it doesn't work. Business are not run by black people. Business are run by incompetent people. Competent people, not because you're black, not because whatever. So they've eliminated that, and I'm sure they did eliminate it in their internal structure in terms of who they appoint in which position. They didn't necessarily judge based on merit. It was a fellow comrade. So yeah, go ahead and take the department of whatever. So yeah, there's no meritocracy. Nobody was judged based on their merit and what they are capable of as an individual. And that is detrimental effects.
Yeah.
That's ANC.
Small shit ANC, my bro.
Well, only if only if Mandela had at least 15 years left to him
Yeah.
to run the country, maybe things would have been better.
Man.
Yeah, just because of the fact that he actually could listen and adapt to the environment around him. Because if you are going to be an idealist and stick to whatever ideals and values that you're striving for versus actual reality, then this is how things like this happen. Like, how about we just give money away, guys? How about we just give money away? Sounds like a great idea until it's actually implemented.
And when every time you try to twist the fabric of reality, it just snaps back. It always snaps back. So each time most leaders encounter that snapping back of that fabric of reality, they either twist it more or they become tyrants. And we saw that under communism. They tried to twist the fabric, strap back, and they killed millions of people.
And they just twist it more.
And they just twist it more. Sadly, people still believe in communism and socialism. Whatever they may believe in.
Yeah, but we shouldn't be limited to a political movement. I think it's a broader conservative movement. So it's not necessarily limited to politics, even though politics is such a huge part of our content. I think it's not the only thing that we focus on. It's just a larger movement, just assessing where South Africa is going ideologically, yeah, and everything, and the values that we are embodying.
So since you guys are in politics, I've been wanting to ask this question. Right? Is politics a dirty game or a power game in that sense? How
Oh,
do you
Oh, it's only dirty or power. There aren't any other options.
Are those the
Are there other
are those
options?
the only options you're giving us? Those are the popular options, I understand.
Then I'd say power.
It's a mixture of both in this country. In terms of politics, in and of its own, it is power, yes.
Depending on which situation the party is or whoever's in control, they
Yeah.
choose the card. They flip the card. They flip the card. By using power, we're playing the dirty game.
Yeah. And they aren't as separate as we would like them to be. People play dirty games to gain power. So it's not like they can be not like they can be separated. I think what we should ask is politics a power game or is it a value game? Yeah, are you Gaten McCain's whereby I'm in politics for power? Or are you the 7-year-old kid who wants to be in politics because they want to help people? And I think the the most logical option is just to find somewhere in the middle whereby you want power to help people.
Yeah.
And that's the balance that every politician should strike. That's the balance.
I will say.
That's YEDIBE. That's YEDIBE.
Yeah. Yeah. I think these
The country needs you, my guy.
these topics are a mouthful. Yeah, I think you'd be, yeah, man. You could find 3-hour political talks,
We're just warming up.
but you,
Just warming up.
yeah, but you have to have the patience for it because you don't speak about politics laid back and how's what going. It takes a mental task on you. Even when we are working on the scripts that we work on, it's sometimes it's physically painful to state the things that we do because it's a difficult thing to do. It's not as easy as people would like to have it. Now you see our Ben Shapiro who just speak like serpents, like Abu Jordan Peterson. It's skill and it's experience and it's research. Because one day you'll get found out. You'll write something and people will ask you about it. Now it's hard now. You can't explain.
You need to check your facts.
Yeah, you need to check your facts. You need to check your facts.
Know your facts.
You need to know them too. And that's why I appreciate platforms like this because they actually test your understanding of the things that you actually believe.
And
Because-
say.
Yeah, and say. Yeah, it's like now when you're on the spot and then you actually have to articulate
Yeah.
what you believe. It's more different than having 2 days to think and then come up with a response.
Right.
This is on the spot thing.
Yeah, it's not like you're writing down, you scratch it out, you write down, you scratch out, you sit down, you think. If you ask me a question now, I have like 5 seconds to answer it. I have to articulate that answer.
Yeah.
And it has to be in correspondence with what I believe and what I've said before.
Yeah.
So it's a toll, and platforms like this are good because they serve as the platform to showcase that the testing of those individuals and
Yes.
organizations.
Yeah. Separating from the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah, it's these things that people overlook, which are
You
crucial.
guys mentioned Christianity.
Yes.
So, as South Africa, we are the rainbow nation and a free country, right? As a country that, used to, I'm assuming, was more populated by Christians, right? And African spirituality. Yeah. What is your take on the fact that they actually started integrating what do they call it?
Traditional practices with Christian practices.
Not traditional practices. this one, values and satanic
Satanism.
churches.
Satanism, basically.
Yeah, Satanism. When I can't read, it's a free country.
It's a free country.
Oh,
so
yeah.
People can practice Satanism in
It's a
our
free
country.
religion, free whatsoever.
Yeah, it comes back to the idea of what freedom is.
Mm.
I think we spoke on the phone about a month ago, and then I told him I think the best definition of freedom is the ability to do what's good. I don't think that a killer has freedom to kill. You don't have freedom to kill.
Mm.
Yeah, that's why we narrow down freedom to a virtue. Anything that is bad cannot be encompassed in the idea of freedom. So when you have satanic churches, what you should weigh is South African a Christian nation or is it a Christian government? And I think that South African is a Christian nation because last time I checked the stats it was 81% of South Africans identify as Christians, which was a survey. So now when you have a Christian nation that does not uphold a Christian government, then you have a clashing of these two ideologies. That's why you have South Africa endorsing things such as abortion and LGBTQI rights. So I think the best way to approach something like the satanic churches is to check the foundations of the country. Are you sure you want something like this to exist? And if we are in a secular nation, then I think that we should allow them because we have left our convictions to the point whereby we cannot even define what is right and what is wrong. This is how far we've come. So I think the problem is not necessarily the satanic churches that choose to establish themselves in a nation that allows them to establish themselves. I think the problem is a Christian nation that upholds a government that is not Christian. And that's how you see our values are always in steady decline. And the moment that,
Morals too.
yeah, our morals are in steady decline as a country.
Deteriorating, yes.
And that's, I think it's one of those things that made us establish YEDIBE, is that we are losing our moral fabric. I mean, our morals may be twisted in a way, but they are twisted for our own individual, yeah, well, idiosyncrasies. They are not twisted for our Christian traditional convictions. That's what I'd say. I think South Africa needs to go back to being a Christian nation. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Make them have a rainbow nation. Few years later, boom, LGBTQ.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
We
yeah,
make one
it's
exception, you
logical.
have to make another exception.
Yeah. So South Africa is amoral. They haven't drawn a line. You should draw a line. You should draw a line. Otherwise, you're gonna keep moving and moving and moving the goalpost.
At the end of the day, there won't be any line.
Yeah, there won't be any line no more. There
Chaos.
won't be any line. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So are you guys Christian? It's the real question. Christian.
I follow Jesus.
Oh, you are one of those I'm spiritual, not religious type of guy.
I mean, thing about me, I get confused with my cultural African spirituality and Christianity. I'm still going through my navigating. I'm still navigating. Still in my path. But I do believe in Jesus. I do believe in God. I do believe in the Bible. But again, I get confused with I have so many questions. So many questions.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm navigating. I'm getting.
Do you write?
Do I write? No.
You should.
Yeah.
You should. Try to answer those questions for yourself. You know, just don't just say I have a lot of questions. So I'm just going to stick to what I'm doing. You know, write down those questions and try to answer them by yourself and see where that pursuit to get the truth leads you.
Yeah. And when you are here and you're on a podcast, I think you have no choice but to answer those questions because you will be speaking to a lot of people and every one of them are gonna have certain convictions and they're just gonna stare you in the eyes. Yeah, because
Just like
they're gonna stare you in the eyes.
Okay. I don't want to sound like this is a dumb question or anything, but For those that really don't understand in your spectrum, what is Christianity basically?
Christianity is a belief in Christ. We can go towards the denominations because the Roman Catholic Church is a Christian church, but Christianity cannot be subject to a certain denomination only. Yeah, so Christianity is a belief in Christ. Yeah, some churches are better than others, but Christianity is the
Say
belief in
it.
Christ.
I know you want to
So
say.
okay.
He has something to say.
Well, no, no.
He has something to say.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking this, right? It's a follow-up question because I tend to find that mm, let's just take Kendrina for example.
Mm.
There's so many churches and they're all claiming
Yeah,
Christian churches.
yeah.
So they believe in this type of Christianity. They believe that type of Christianity.
That comes down to practices in the church, actually. That's according to this other research I did. That's one of my questions I had.
Let's go.
So they had colonialism, right? So Europeans.
You had it.
Kind of a loss of European.
You had it.
Europeans.
It's that.
Europeans.
Continue.
Okay, the people who colonized us, right?
Yeah.
They came with their practices as by back then the African spiritual practices. Okay, so down the line they accepted Christ, right? But then they started wanting to do their own practices like kashem. They don't wanna cut their hair. They don't wanna do certain things.
They wanted to make a marriage between the two. Yeah.
So Manji, that's when this other, I forgot the name of it, but it has a whole name acronym about it.
ZCC.
Sorry?
ZCC.
No, not ZTC is also one of them, but it's
Jesus, what you call them? Jesus disciples, what do you call them?
no, not Jesus disciples.
Let him cook.
Is it a denomination?
The stoves on two.
Yeah, it's something like a denomination because that organization, how the churches that we have now actually come to be, which is why, mind you, this ZTC is a different practice from Washem, and Washem is a different practice from a different church. And then we've got European church, the Actol, and then we've got our Catholics, which is why we have so many churches around because of the different practices.
Yeah. Okay. I think to go back to Keith's initial point, you were speaking about. You said that there are different denominations, and this one does this, and then this one does this. He's saying that what caused the practices to be different in the first place, not whether or not the differences exist. I think we we can go back to the Reformation. There was a guy called Martin Luther who published a piece against the Roman Catholic Church. I think it was in the Netherlands or Germany, and then he initiated the Reformation, which means people who didn't believe in certain aspects of the Roman Catholic Church sort of split from the church. They split from the church, and then that's where the Church of England gets established, and then those who don't believe in the Church of Lutheran gets established. Those who don't believe in Luther scatter, and then the Anglican Church gets established, and then those who don't believe in it scatter. Just like that. Yeah, just like my church, we are Seventh-day Adventists, so we are not even from the Roman Catholic Church. We are after the Reformation. So those splits are doctrinal debates. And once Martin Luther initiated that, it didn't stop. People are still reforming to this day. They're still reforming to this day. That's why you have a plethora of churches. That's how you have a plethora of churches. So yeah, I don't want to go too far on this subject matter because it's very controversial history as to was he right to leave the church, was he wrong to leave the church? I for one claim that he was wrong, just because of what's happening now. Yeah, and we as South Africans were colonized by Protestants. We weren't colonized by Catholics. We were colonized by Protestants, and the Protestants were a bit scattered.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why you find there are many religious churches whereby when you go to Spain or France or Argentina, people are Catholic. They are Catholic. So that's what happened. And it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. I think everybody should be underneath
So
one church.
basically, now that in some sense it's divide and conquer for other religions, whatever religion that's.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds wrong that sounds wrong in the same sentence as religion.
Yeah.
It really sounds wrong when you say,
Yeah.
But it was the case.
Yeah, it was the case.
It was.
Yeah. So yeah, just pick a church and then research others. Look into history and why certain divisions occurred and why certain people left the church and why other people did not leave the church, and then you'll find the solution.
And why is your church right? Yeah.
Why are they wrong? We should start using those words. Not
Simple words.
right.
Why would it
You are
work?
wrong.
Why is it wrong? Why is it right?
Yeah.
Simple words.
Yeah.
Leads you to more information.
And it has varying effects on our relationships with each other. The rules between men and women, all of these stem from our religious
Sensitive
convictions.
topic.
Yeah.
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 So
Nah.
I advise you say it.
You are curious, bro. That's the words that I want to know.
gender roles.
Gender roles.
Gender roles.
Gender roles.
Should the woman stay in the kitchen?
Should they? They should.
Yeah, I think they should. Because Natty, they expect us to, whenever they got a flat tire, who do they expect to change the tires? Us, right?
Yeah.
So they should also be in the kitchen.
But then I believe they should rather know their way around the kitchen. They should rather know the same way we should rather know our way with the changing of tires, fixing plumbing issues and so on. I think they should know their way around the kitchen. Not Uguti, because mind we in a very new age, we can't deny the fact that women want to work. We can't deny the fact that women are actually pursuing dreams.
Yes.
So we can't deny that.
Yes.
But then at the same time, the same way we're pursuing our dreams, we know our way around fixing flat tires or changing flat tires to a new tire, knowing how to change light bulbs. I think they should actually know their way around on how to change a house into a home.
Okay. So we have a divided house. I am on it's complex. You're on they should stay in the kitchen.
I believe that women should stay in the kitchen, and I think I'm wrong, but I said it.
I think that it's a complex issue, and to say that they should stay in the kitchen is a misunderstanding of what the feminine role is. Femininity is not reserved for a kitchen. It's about building a home, and to build a home is not about to make rice. It's a lot of things have to be taken into account. So it's not like I want the defined rules of the masculine and the feminine to be disintegrated. I just know that the feminine and the masculine are just beyond changing tires and staying in the kitchen. Because even if now I'm going after you guys. Even if you look at staying in the kitchen versus changing a tire, one happens every day, the other happens once every 3 months. Not even 3 months.
Once in a bad situation.
Yeah, a bad situation.
So
we cannot even reduce masculinity to that. So why would we reduce femininity to that?
So this is basically how YEDIBE works. I come out and say the most extreme things sometimes, and then the Tepiso comes in and corrects it and adjusts it. That's how it usually works.
Yeah.
But in terms of gender roles, it would be quite misogynistic to reduce women to the kitchen. It's true. Women play a role of, like you said, turning a house into a home. They amplify what the man has provided. They serve, they should serve, and their serving should not be misinterpreted as a way of levels. It's not a thing of just because you're serving me, you below me whatsoever. And we are not equal in this at the same time. Because equality is a different conversation. Everyone, the man has a role which is to provide and protect. That's what I believe. The woman has a role of nurturing and serving and having faith in the husband that he is the one who is to take up the responsibility of coming to the decision which will be ultimately beneficial to the family. That's
Which
what
requires
I believe in.
trust
Which requires trust and faith in that man.
and submission,
Which-
ultimately.
Yes, which is what submission is. That's what I believe.
Yeah. So when, it's just, it's that dynamic. It's that dynamic. Yeah. Yeah.
So in the sense we would see, alright, I'm just gonna take this and put it on a different pedestal, whatever you wanna call it. Basically, you guys are now saying that the father should just play the father role, the mother should play the mother role. You can never be a mother. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And you can never be a father when you're a mother.
Yeah, you can't. And to try to do so is only for unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah.
Because the father is not there. So you're forced to embody a role that is not natural to your femininity or your masculinity.
Yeah,
So, but I'm not blaming mothers who raise their kids on their own. Yeah, it's just that they are an asset, but they're the only asset that the child has.
and women are right in most cases. Women are right.
What do you mean?
If women don't want you, they are right.
Yeah.
You're probably the wrong one as a man. In most cases. Because they risk more. They risk more. They are the ones who have to carry the baby. They are the ones who have to nurture the baby. And they have the right to be picky in terms of the partner that they have to choose.
Who's gonna raise the child?
On who's going to be the father.
And they should be more picky.
And they should be more picky.
Doesn't that now,
and this generation is not picky.
Doesn't that now like kind of put the child in a very tight corner, because now he's being raised by a father that he doesn't know, due to the fact that the mother now chose.
The mother chooses before the child, because you don't even choose a father. You also choose who you want to engage with. So it's a much deeper problem than that. So our selection doesn't begin at birth; it begins before birth. Yeah.
Relationship choices.
Yeah, relationship choices. Yeah, because fatherlessness is one of the biggest issues that South Africa struggles with. Yeah, most people who are in prison are men who grew up without their fathers. Yeah, it's very bad.
Most is upwards in the 60%.
Yeah, it's very bad.
Most. So it is a crucial thing to establish intact families.
Yeah.
And women should be picky when it comes to that.
And
And they are not in this generation. It's appalling.
And when you speak about the gender roles, you speak about marriage itself. I think that the roles of the masculine and the feminine, male and female, are embedded in that relationship. So when we speak about the clashes that occur, a woman who doesn't want to submit, or a man who does not want to be submitted to, which is also a problem. Man who wants his wife to behave like a man is also a problem, because we do have men like that. So there should be a reformation as to how far we have gotten. Because now we have gender wars. I didn't know it should have been a war. Shouldn't be a war at all. I think it's just a
Yeah,
testament to
now
how
each gender
bad things have
believes.
gotten.
Now each gender believes that they can exist entirely on their own, which is not the
Which is
case.
not.
It's not
Yeah.
true.
Nature says it. You don't need to.
I mean, even
It's,
a
it's
tree
not.
has
It's
a
not
female and
worth.
a male.
Yeah, it's not worth a debate.
Mm.
In that sense, so we see even nature. You just need to look at nature if that's the case.
Mm. Yeah.
Nature just provides you with the answers that there needs to be for to balance.
Yeah. A pastor that I watched on YouTube just said that even if it wasn't Adam's fault that Eve ate the apple, it is still his responsibility that whatever happened happened. And I think that's the role that we still have to play when it comes to the feminine side of humanity. Like even when women do things and it's not our fault, it's always going to be our responsibilities. You know this even when you're fighting with your lady. It's like she's wrong, but you know that this won't be resolved until you actually become a man and try to solve the problem that is at hand. And this remains true even on the larger scale of interracial relations intergender relations in a nation. Like we should find a way to build a bridge between us and the feminine, because just coming out and saying, "Hey, Nina Wila Nikishini," is not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it because they are autonomous, whether we like it or not.
Saying what you say, man, it's kind of like sadly, right? Growing up as a child, knowing that you have a father, but your father turned gay.
Hmm.
Knowing that you have a mother, but your mother now lesbian. Like, how are we? How do you deal with that when such happens? Because now you don't know whether you have two mothers or whether you have two fathers or what's happening.
Because they identify as.
You have two
They
mothers.
gender.
Um, it would be better to speak more on the effects rather than how you deal with it. You know, the effects are the absence of masculinity, the absence of rationality, because women tend to lean more to emotions. And Dr. Jordan Peterson said that your father, if he sticks around, embodies the consistency of competence throughout the ups and downs of life, through commitment to one thing or multiple things, such as marriage. And marriage is voluntarily.
Work.
Marriage, you're not like literally forced to stay in there, it's voluntarily. So he resembles the idea that consistency on competence and voluntarily staying engaged in a meaningful relationship, and something like work, which displays competence, and the other things that I've mentioned before, such as rationality and masculinity. So if that's absent, then your foundation as a young boy is completely dismantled in the house.
And when
The foundation of a young girl having daddy issues.
and
Yo,
that's and on the example of a gay father, I think the first thing you should do is stop calling him your gay father. I think the moment that you identify yourself with the worst aspects of yourself, they seem to, I don't know, they solidify within you. Yeah, because I'm not one of those people who believes that when you are gay, it's done. I'm not one of those people. I wouldn't be a Christian if I believed that. So yeah, it's all about labeling yourself properly. It's all about labeling yourself properly. But yeah,
well, gender roles that trouble the water. There's a lot of fine lines that you have to tread on, or besides. So it is quite a sensitive topic, and it's easy to be wrong there. And it sounds simple when you say a man has to do this, a woman has to do this, but the embodying of those roles is the complex part, because it's been challenged lately, through feminism, toxic masculinity. It's being challenged on coming out and saying I'm a man, and then you say, yeah, you probably
I'm a husband.
you mean that you are masculine, and masculine has been portrayed as toxic.
As lifting weights and
Yeah, boys, lifting weights only, etc., and not adopting responsibility,
and sacrificing for your family. That's what
sacrificing for
masculinity
family.
is.
Yeah. So hey,
Yeah, it is trouble, Lotus. But we'll get there.
Looking at how people actually get married and then divorce afterwards, and just if you could check the divorce rates, I don't know the facts on the rates, but I could say through rumors and I'm a him and so on, people they get married too soon, or it's either they can't deal with the ups and downs because their whole relationship has been under the honeymoon stage. Mind you, once responsibility starts facing them in marriages where you have to be committed, where you're not only representing yourself but your wife, not only representing yourself but your husband. Like, I want to dive into that divorce part. Like, how do we keep a marriage, and how do you minimize divorce?
People, before you
Go.
people get married too late.
Yes.
You can carry on now.
So Jordan, Jordan, Ben Shapiro said that it's good to marry young. And why it's good? It's because when you marry late, let's say, I heard a lot of elderly people in my family saying, you should marry when you're like 35, 40. And that's completely false, because when you're young, it's much easier to develop an interdependent bond with someone else, because when you're 35, you have
are
all your
established.
values, you're established as a person, your character is in stone, and it's hard to integrate that with someone else. As much as you see them having a lot in common with you, etc., it becomes quite difficult to integrate that and achieve harmony within that marriage. And then that makes it more vulnerable to divorce.
And I want to go back to what you said. You were like, a man needs to have responsibility.
Yes.
So what if the man can't be responsible enough in order to actually get the marriage? Because now once you're married to a man, like, I can't be married to my wife and nhlala la khaya nahlale kamamaki and what. So what if I'm still trying to land on my feet? I need to get where I need to be so I can be responsible enough to take care of you and to protect you in my own house. So I wanna challenge what you say. Right?
Go on.
I wanna challenge what you say, because I believe when we young, especially men, they should be chasing their purpose. Not saying that they shouldn't be leaving women on the side. Like, have a woman on your side, but marry when the time is right, when you are able to protect her, when you are able to actually provide for her financially, physically, and emotionally. Because right now, where I am, right, I want to be at the right place, mentally, financially, physically, if you may say, to actually get married. Because I'm going to ntombi yabantu ngibhadale malobolo mawuhlala. Come on, man.
Tati Keith.
I have a question for you. How do you know that you're now ready to do that? Because you're going to keep on trying to better yourself. Something.
Tepiso asked me yesterday, he was like, when is the perfect time? Or when do you know that it's the right time to get married? I replied and I said, nobody knows. Nobody, you can never know when you're ready to be married. Finances aside.
Yeah.
finances aside, because when you're chasing your purpose, what you're working on is yourself. And you're going to end up as the same example that I cited earlier about the guys marrying, let's say 35, or let's say you reached your success at peak around 25, but still you have established yourself. And it's still going to be hard to integrate yourself in a meaningful relationship with another woman.
Because the problem might be that you have too many options now. People see that as a good thing, and sometimes it's not as good as you think. You have too many options, and you might end up being paralyzed by how many options that you have. Yeah. So now when you build with somebody, it's different.
But your idea that if you're not financially capable of marrying someone and live with them, that I understand that, but that does not mean that you shouldn't strive for a meaningful relationship simultaneously with
I was like, not Uti, you put the women aside. Or you can be with them.
yes.
It's just that you're looking to be in a better place for the both of you.
Okay.
Okay.
Both of you.
So she's already in the picture.
Yes.
Then you and I are making the same argument. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So the problem here is the financial constraint to all of this. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The problem that I had is that he said that there would be a problem with his wife living at his family's house. I think that's also a cultural shift that we should have, like within like culture. That it's not bad because lana gwa oh mama gwabana wamanzini la. It's not a person's house. It's a family home because before we used to live on communal lands, so we used to share in the space that we would inhabit. So nobody would have a home. It would be a communal home. Yeah. So this idea that a person needs to be independent and then be sort of like separate from their parents to actually partake in something like marriage just places a financial burden that is most of the time unnecessary.
Unnecessary, yes.
Because marriage is a beautiful thing and our parents should try by all means to support it. Not that we shouldn't strive for independence, but if we have a financial constraint, then we will never get married. Nobody will ever get married, ever.
Yeah, because
We'll
that's
come back in it again.
go on.
We'll come back in it again. I don't like okay, like
This guy this guy is gunning for us.
we people, right? We tend to have sometimes emotion high, sometimes emotion low, sometimes you just aggravate. So there comes a time whereby there's unnecessary drama, right? That boils up
Where?
in a
In the
place
marriage.
where, like, let's say for instance, I live here and my wife lives here, and then we've got a whole family here. There's gonna be sibling drama within Ilona. There's gonna be now wife mother drama. There's gonna be son mother drama, and so on. So don't you think that is gonna take a toll somewhere somehow? Because once that drama happens, then obviously your wife is gonna start thinking of solutions. Uti, I think we should get out. Now you're gonna start considering it, but then you're not at the place where you can actually get out. So what do you do now?
Well,
You took the solution out.
yeah, I think well, you're responsible of keeping your wife in check for not engaging in those dramas. And your father is responsible for keeping your mother to not inflict
Then you go
such
back
conflict.
again. Fatherless homes.
Sorry?
Then we go back again. Fatherless homes. What happens there?
Then you should be the mitigator.
You should then you should yeah, you should be responsible for everyone.
Yeah.
You should be responsible.
For your actions and their actions.
Makes you more of a man. Now you can be more of a man.
Yeah. Yeah, because families didn't used to be this scattered. This is new. Everybody used to live together. Angeke uhambe ufuna umsebenzi le because you hunt, and then you grow veggies there, and then this way you guys live together. That's just how it worked.
It used to be like more of a, it takes a village to raise a child.
It still does.
But now in modern day society, it's kind of,
It takes TikTok to raise a child now.
yeah.
It takes a village. It takes the
Because-
people that you send the child to at daycare, the school, aftercare.
In the sense of, in a home,
family.
in the family, like,
Yeah,
looking
I'm
at-
saying we have outsourced
yeah,
the
now
roles
it's- that we should
our
be-
malume
yeah,
used to play,
yeah.
and then now it's the
Yeah.
the taxi driver, the
Mm.
minieri,
Mm.
nursery school teachers.
And one other thing is you don't know what household that person is now gonna correct your child with
And they might hold different values.
Yeah, to you. Yeah, they might, and that's a
he might
problem.
impose them on your child,
Yeah.
which contrasts the one you impose at home.
Yeah.
Troubled water. So, what's your
Do you
counter
concede?
argument?
Do you concede?
You do know, you do know that it's 3 against 1, right?
I stand my ground. It's all. I stand my ground.
Which
But you
ground?
guys, the one Malema is fighting.
Oh god.
Okay, go on.
What you guys are saying,
Mm.
you're all right. You're all right. I have nothing to say.
It is ours. We have conquered.
I have nothing to
We have conquered the hosts.
Maybe it's because I grew up in an environment where I see abantu abashadayo batholile. They find their own environment where they can raise their children.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be that. That's why I have this ideology of okay, before Mtulumbas, I need to make sure I have a home.
Yeah.
I need to make sure I have shelter.
Yeah.
I can provide.
Yeah.
They say then Khan,
How-
you should okay.
How
That's fine.
about we put provide before your home?
Provide before your home.
How about we make sure that you can provide first, and then you can get a home? But I'm sure it works in tandem. I'm sure.
You can't separate
Yeah.
providing, you also need to provide good shelter.
I think this whole conversation is based on an individualistic culture. Yeah, that's just what it is. Everybody wants to stand, and it's just me and nobody else. And I think that's one of the worst ideologies that have taken over modern people. It's just
Yeah.
this individualistic culture. Like, I would entertain like me, I'll do it on my own.
Isolation.
Yeah, isolation. We have made it a virtue, and
And what's your take on that isolation part? Is it a healthy thing? Is it a healthy practice?
According to Thomas Sowell, isolation leads to disparities, stagnation, and no growth, because you cannot
Isolation in what sense?
isolation in excluding yourself from the values which other people hold, and environmentally, ideologically. Let's say you take your family and you want to live in Cape Town. You know, yeah, you're isolated, and you wouldn't find the same opportunities you would have found when you are living alongside with your family. It's not like living in Cape Town and living with your family is better, unless it's some big opportunity, unless it's some big job opportunity.
yeah.
It doesn't, like, what's the opposite of isolation then? And if let's look at the opposite.
Collectivization or something like that.
Yeah, okay, if that's the case, doesn't that also kind of make a person stagnant in the sense of it's supposed to also grow out of that environment? Because environment can be the one thing that influences growth.
Yeah.
That depends on the quality of the culture within that environment.
Yeah, I would say that the opportunity, if it presents itself, I don't think it's something that should be ignored. But the fact that some opportunities are isolated to some places and not others is a problem. I do think that when we build a capitalist system, I don't think that the capitalist system's formula should not make way for the family. A lawyer must cannot stay in Henrina. A lawyer must go to Joburg to look for work. An artist must go to Cape Town to look for work. That's bad. I think we should try to localize as much as we can. Otherwise, we will scatter each other. Really, no matter what, we
And
will
disintegrate.
We will disintegrate.
And in that sense, that is down the culture that you guys have preserved for thousands of years, if that's the case.
Yeah, because your lineage stops at the cousin. You and your brother, you only your kids know each other, and then their kids know each other. The moment that stops, it's done. It's done. I don't know some of my cousins out there. I don't know them. I don't know
Oh,
them.
you my cousin too.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So it's a problem. It is a problem.
End up marrying your cousin.
You end up marrying your cousin.
Sitholisa amacala.
Yeah. Oh. I'm late about here when. I was with
I saw this other video. There was a couple, right? Back to let me entice curiosity. There was a couple, right? What happened was they were cool, they vibing and everything. They get a child, right? After they get a child, the hand gets pregnant. Like, don't get a child. After the hand gets pregnant, comes a family gathering, right? And then the aunties knows everybody's child. Then they're like, "Oh no, that's my brother's son." Oh, there's the daughter. And by the time they're dating,
it's too late.
and the marriage card, those cards is brother and sister.
That's
It's too late.
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's why we have to keep it in the family.
Yo.
Let it, but at that point, let it be.
Let it be.
Let it be.
There's nothing you can do now.
I mean, she's already pregnant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let it be.
So now, do you now continue with that marriage?
Yeah.
No. Marriage.
What, you gonna divorce?
Like the other, I mean, you've been raising the child. You're
Okay.
gonna raise the child.
They're approaching you guys. Are they approaching you guys to get married, or have they married already?
No.
Because you
You
wouldn't.
know what happened? They were dating.
Yeah, planning to get married.
I don't know about that, but then they were dating.
Yeah.
And the hand got pregnant.
Yeah.
And only when they had a family gathering did they know that they're siblings,
Oh.
brother and sister.
Yeah.
That's important to get married first before you actually have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is another discussion.
Prepizela.
So that you know who you actually
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Now we
Yeah.
can come together. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this other episode scandal.
Yeah.
This other chick was fucking Ubabake, dog.
Oh, shit.
And they only found out later.
When they were about to get married. Just as they were about to get married. And apparently the lady was still in love with the father to such an extent that she didn't want to believe it anymore in that sense, and she wanted to continue, but obviously
it was wrong.
It's wrong. I mean,
Yeah. So that's the lesson for today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get married.
get married to God.
Get married. Keep the family together as much as you can.
But I guess they keeping the family.
Yo.
There's a right way to do it.
It's giving what's that family? Is it Medici or is it
Some royal families do inbreed.
yeah.
Which one was it? The Spanish one?
I think it was in Norway. Was it Norway?
I think it was the Spanish one regarding that artist.
They inbreed.
Yeah, they inbreed
Incest.
cousins, sisters sometimes.
Incest. They practice incest.
Wow,
And I mean, how are you gonna explain it to the child? And now you're raising the child with that ideology that they also have to do that because I see it as the right way to do things.
Yeah.
But
then at the end of the day, people is right, it's unjust.
well, back then it was right apparently because how did we end up populating?
It was- It has
It
always
was
been wrong.
normalized.
And they
It's
were
only
wrong.
now then that we kind of look at it in that spectrum of it. No, I can never. My sister's always my sister.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, it was always wrong. Let's not act like these guys were.
It was always wrong.
It was always wrong.
In today's society, it's definitely has to be wrong.
Yeah.
Stand for it. Stand your ground.
Stand for something.
Get
So,
married.
yeah. Get
Remember,
married.
he had a question about Brexit before we continue with this gender roles. Unfortunately, it was for the previous topic, but
Pass.
we got pass. Now that I mentioned it.
He probably forgot.
Yeah, I forgot. We should have a pass.
Alright.
Yeah, this is the social segment of the podcast.
Social relations.
Social relations, the family.
Family issues.
Yeah, nothing more important than
Why
that.
is it when I see somebody drink, I want to drink too?
That's me too. It's contagious. It's contagious.
Oh.
Do you guys actually see those kind of traits in even the content that you make? Do you think it's sort of like imitation is the best form of flattery?
Well, they say the
They say this.
they say the best. Okay, I forgot the saying, but it has something to do with if you copy what's working, it's actually going to work for you too.
Yeah. In terms of content, obviously.
Do what's working.
What's
and
working, but
integrate with it, but make it your own.
make it your own. It needs to be with your way of understanding it.
Yeah, it has to be
I mean,
moralized. So you can't just now sell yourself as some people do.
So, what's your take on podcasts that are centered around dating or open chat?
Open chat.
Yeah. Do you think that's a moral way of making a dollar? I mean, a rand.
Man, some people need to eat, you know. I can't really say the way you make your money, I won't judge you. Because
but from your
Prostitutes?
from your standpoint, is it moral? In your standpoint,
I can't judge them, but in my opinion, still stand.
Does it?
Prostitutes?
You're still busy with the
Okay. Just one question. Just one question. Does it contrast your values?
It doesn't.
Okay.
What are your values in terms of the
Independence.
sexuality and all of those?
my values.
Yeah.
Like Ghana food.
about
My values in terms of sexuality.
Yeah, and expression, sexual expression.
My values.
define sexual expression in that sense. Before I answer that question from my side.
Yo, how you act out your sexual identity. It's like a man who believes that man is attached to promiscuity is going to sleep with more men, even if it's conscious or unconscious.
Men.
I mean more women. And then if you look at
I had to ask that.
In my mind, like, okay, maybe in terms of spiritual ties,
Yeah.
maybe in terms of that.
That's true. We should never ignore that. The spiritual side.
well, so you aren't a whatever you want to do type of person.
No. I think a strong man is a person who can control themselves.
If you are governed by your dick, my guy,
Yeah.
call it out as it is, it's easy to manipulate you in this world.
Yes.
So you need to stand on that routine now.
Besides, just
Control yourself.
Besides, just if you're governed by emotion, But I said I'm adding on to that.
Oh.
I think most cases those emotions are driven by lust. Yeah. So I don't know who said this, but he said, "Weak men chase pleasure, strong men chase purpose."
I mean, we can't just only talk about joy experiences. There's more that we are dealing with than just joy. So, like, why don't we talk about how much these suicidal rates are going up, how we can actually lessen them as the youth?
Minimize that.
And so, because I've had people close in close proximities who have killed themselves, who have attempted. So life doesn't just revolve around joy. That's my opinion about that.
So you think it's short-sighted?
It is.
Okay.
So what is it that you would like us to address?
Address.
Suicide.
Not that. I was just saying with it. But we can address it now, because
Where does this whole thing stem from? Our cultural obsession with sex. I think that's the most important question. Is it an ideological thing? Is it a sign of the times? Like, what are we looking at? How does a group of people go from putting marriage on a pedestal to
putting hoism on the page.
to worshiping their sexual expression?
Damn. Damn.
That's where we should get to. And I think it's back to the independence part because everybody wants to, because marriage is something that builds communities. But when you have Ayim no Cheroami, it's always going to be you and her on that small little island that you guys hold. It's always going to be that. And just people will want to keep as much as themselves as they can. Like, I have the option to leave. I hit this one, I leave. I hit this one, I leave. And
It's quite selfish
yeah,
and hedonistic because
very independent.
you have these independent men
Mm.
chasing pleasure and lacking purpose.
Mm.
And the lack of purpose is also one of the reasons for hiking suicide rates.
Yeah, gets there. Not independent.
But then, yet again, as a student, focusing on a lot of things, like probably high school, busy on the homework, task, you still like finding your way through high school.
Yeah.
You're still yet to find your purpose.
Yeah.
And so where does that stem from? Okay, now I want to kill myself.
Solitaire.
Yeah, it's all based on peer pressure, man. You see everyone on back on and there's a thing going on.
Yeah.
You kind of now feel left out because our phone shared or
Mostly it is comparing yourself.
yeah, basically you compare yourself to the next person.
I think what you need to find is something which can make you feel good about yourself. That's one.
Yeah.
And I think that would approximate a girlfriend and someone or something who you can trust, rely on emotionally and materialistically. And that can be a girlfriend. And that also comes with responsibility for her. And she has responsibility for you in some aspects. So that participation in something meaningful, I think that can reduce the chances of
The only problem now,
peer pressure and
Then it comes back to
suicide.
the isolation.
yeah. The problem is now she leaves you. You also don't know what the home she was raised in.
Yeah,
Ish.
so my solution to this is Christianity. And I know it's cliche. Jesus would leave you. Yeah, take a good day because if you are trying to get something that is going to help you garner responsibility and help you have meaning in the world, and the best bridge to that is just to give yourself to something that is beyond yourself, which can be marriage, which can be the relationship with God,
Mm.
Christ. That's what I say.
So you just have to outsource from yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. And put it in the picture, just get out of it. Just get it, just prepare, just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say. You guys don't have any mics?
No, we have
As in,
Nah.
no. Yeah, so it's repeat. Yeah.
Yeah, mine's still good.
I've been talking for
We've been
so
talking, that's why.
and they've been on longer than you've been recorded.
I don't know, so we can't tell.
Is yours one? Let's just
Yeah, mine's top tier.
Yeah, it's just.
Or you wanna swap?
But it's some point when you're not here.
No, I'm funny about the little and
Really, not the what you say. At some point, you need to spend money.
Spend on the right things.
it's flashing.
Nah, hold it. Double press it.
It's a mistake. Oh,
Double press crank.
You'll be good. So, you're old.
so yeah, the problem is still independence. Maybe that's my great fight.
Independent.
Fighting against independence.
Yeah,
I don't think we were actually meant to be independent
Mm.
because we are very social beings.
Yeah.
We are very social. Like, notice
And vulnerable.
notice how okay, some people don't really feel that energetic, but then how lightweighted you feel after a good, valuable conversation you have with people.
You're light on your feet.
Yeah, you light on your feet.
Yeah. Even our dependence on each other to reproduce is also a sign that people are not meant to be alone.
This is why I also agree on the fact that isolation is not really good.
Yeah.
It's not really good, but then at the same time, it depends on who and what you're isolating yourself from. Because there are people that are not good for you. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Isolate yourself from those people, then maybe we talking. So maybe you have a progressive growth.
And back then when royal families used to inbreed, not necessarily inbreed, but arranged marriages actually. When they had arranged marriages, they were quite isolated. And the ending of that is what initiated interdependent relations, social relations in people where you can now rely on someone else, a complete stranger. And that what gave birth to contracts. There were contractual relations. And that's when we started to
Develop technology.
develop
Also,
technology through the
trade.
interdependent, because you could only trade based on trusting that this person will deliver their end. Back then it was never like that. It was arranged marriage. And I know the two seems hard to link, but then that's how we got from there to here.
Yeah.
So yeah, isolation is
It's a dangerous thing.
Yeah, that's why so many people are addicted to pornography these days.
Depressed.
Depressed.
sexually frustrated.
Facts.
Yeah. Hold yourself in a bubble of sorts.
Should porn be illegal?
No, should probably.
Illegal.
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 Oh, yeah. No. I thought you said legal.
Should porn be illegal?
Yeah, it should.
Definitely should.
Okay.
Yeah, it should. But why? Why?
I mean,
What's the difference
Research
between
shows that if you were an excessive porn watch, if you were to actually now be intimate, your mind and your dick, they now used to the fact that you watch first and then you get stimulated, rather than being close to a man and then you'll be intimate.
Participating.
Yeah,
Mm.
when you participate. So you're required to actually watch
Hmm.
to actually get stimulated.
So it establishes a second-hand sexual practice or whatever.
Yeah. If they still do it.
Yeah, pornography is the biggest form of sexual independence. That's what I'd like to call it.
Mental masturbation.
Yeah.
And that thing is very, very bad.
Yeah.
Like on a different level. Like, look, it's very bad.
Kills your testosterone as well.
Big time.
Kills it
Big
completely.
time.
Yeah.
So why should it be illegal?
It should be legal.
Illegal.
Illegal.
Because smoking is legal. Smoking also kills you.
I believe it stems down to
See, the issue with porn is really difficult.
this one is very
But I believe that porn should be illegal.
what's the funny part?
I never said it, just making.
Yeah.
The funny part is that there's this guilt you get after nutting, masturbating specifically. And then you know it's wrong, you feel it's wrong, then why are you going to
Because you forgot. You forgot that
You
feeling.
choose to forget in that
do it? You
moment.
choose to forget.
Because you're in the moment.
Yeah, in the
But then
moment.
the fact that, like, the guilt you get when you do it says a lot about it.
You believe that you won't get the guilt, but you get it each and every time.
And I believe in some way you will pay for your sins. Here on earth, to be specific.
Yeah.
It could be prostate cancer, it could be your mindset.
Prostitution, because you are scaling up. You are scaling up.
Because you feel like, no, no,
Yeah.
this other one.
Yeah.
And then the thing is,
And
You never get satisfied now.
it's just a circle, bro. It's just keep on. You're in the same circle.
Right.
at some point, you don't know what's meant for entertainment, not sexual education. So if you go there thinking you're gonna learn something, you just being entertained.
You are lying, first of all. You know, not you, the person who goes there pretending to
Learn something.
get an educational program from.
Falsehood.
It's a falsehood.
Get
And
married and then you will learn how to do it.
Yes.
get married.
Because
Get married. Get
Get a
married.
house and get married.
Get a house and get married.
yeah.
Yeah, but see, Adam got land before he got Eve. He got the garden before he got a wife.
Yeah.
So, Bishop Mapong,
Uh,
that's one of those people.
Yeah, get married and have kids.
Yeah.
And be a misogynist.
The good kind.
he's just going to that.
The good kind.
He's there for that. He's there for that. I can come up and say, women can run businesses. And then he says something better, and it's like, I'm saved. Because I know, like, I know, years from now, they're going to be like, Yende, remember you said this in 2024. Why should we trust you on this policy? It's like, well, there's Tepiso for that. It's right here. So please believe that there will be conversations around this policy and it will be well implemented.
Yeah.
And case solved.
We'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Yeah, looking at your guys' journey of YEDIBE, what was one of the hardest thing you came across so far?
How did you also
The hardest thing is writing. Nothing's more difficult than thinking.
Yeah.
The hardest thing is coming up with a coherent argument, especially when you're doing a rebuttal, a criticism of what someone else says. That's the most difficult thing to write about because you should be intricate. You should never make mistakes when you are criticizing somebody because when you make one mistake, the whole argument falls apart.
Falls off, yeah.
The whole argument falls off.
And in rebuttals, we mostly get our rebuttals, let's say, on TikTok. and someone says this abhorrent stuff, and then I go into the comments and like all these people are supporting him, and he's wrong. But it is up to you to make a coherent argument and articulate yourself so that it completely not only demolishes their argument, but it
Demolish.
it should demolish them, destroys, devour.
You should also show a sense of an understanding of the argument that's presented towards
still
you.
man it.
Don't make the argument as strong as you can. When we speak against Julius Malema in the EFF, we try to make the argument as strong as it can, and then we kill it.
Yeah,
You don't kill a straw.
Yeah. When you hear Malema and you hear his argument, what we do is put ourselves in Malema's shoe and make every best case Malema can make,
As strong as
right?
we can.
And then we display it, and then
Then we kill it.
Yeah, then we exit out of Malema's shoes, and then we just devour him.
Devour.
You shouldn't start with the kill. You should that's what they call it, the first law of debate. You don't start with the kill.
Yeah, if you and I are debating, I don't take your point and ridicule it and make you look stupid as possible.
I'll do that later.
Yeah. What I have to do is make sure that I hear you properly and try to make your argument as strong as possible and understand what you are saying and get on the same page on what you are saying, and then I can just come back later.
I think that's why the Penwell video was the hardest one to actually complete, is because he's spoken about so many things so extensively, and he was so wrong in many of the things that he would say, that to put him in a box was very, very, very difficult. To put myself in his shoes, put ourselves in his shoes is very difficult. Yeah, that's why the worse the argument is, the harder it is to write against. And you think that is the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, because it really sounds simple if Malema comes up and says white people are racist, and then it really sounds easy to combat, right? To say no, they are not. It really sounds easy to combat, but to put ourselves in his shoes, it is a tall ask. It's quite complex, yeah.
And that's one of the things that you should do. And since we were just speaking about relationships, that's one of the things that you should do in relationships before you get into an argument. Just get into her shoes first, and then Peterson says that you should state her case as well as you possibly can, and she should state your case as well as she possibly can, and then you guys may speak about it.
She wouldn't want to.
She wouldn't want to.
Woman.
Yeah.
They're wrong. You are wrong.
Yeah, like you don't want to be right, you just want to solve the case.
Yeah, I just want to solve the case.
Yeah.
So yeah, thinking is always the hardest part of any journey, and I think that's why we were tempted to go into something that's a little bit more casual in nature. It's not like a podcast is less difficult just because of the equipment. But to compile an argument and then present it in sort of a video essay is, and I think that's the reason why we chose to do that, is because the argument will last longer. When you search neoliberalism in South African YouTube, we will always pop out. But when somebody speaks about neoliberalism in a podcast, if it's not clipped, that's one of the advantages of it. If it's not clipped, then it's hard to find.
Yeah.
It's hard to find. That's why Penwell was also difficult, because he speaks on podcasts. So you'd have to watch an hour, 30-minute video to find one point. That's man. That's
Penwell tiptoes around his argument. Yeah, he tiptoes around his argument. So you have to listen carefully, and then you pin him down. Then you cut that, then you put it here. So okay. Then you have to wait another 30 minutes watching that same video.
And then they
You have to pin him down there.
Just to make it the whole.
But in terms of, besides the creative part, we found content creating part quite challenging, because it is the interacting part and the way. Fine, we made the argument, right, which is quite hard. Now you have to present it.
yeah.
Presentation. After the presentation, you have to find a way to penetrate the algorithm. So
You have the knowledge, but now you have to make it look pretty.
yeah,
You have to make it look. You have to put it in a pretty box, and then you should serve your customers well.
yeah, well,
Like a key to Pandora's box.
yeah,
Yeah,
you can
it should
tell
be
the truth,
beautiful.
but then I can just swipe through a YouTube video like it's nothing.
Yeah. So presentation is key. Audio is key. The visuals are key. So those are the things that we've struggled with the most, because when we run through ideas, that's the simplest part of our job. We do this naturally. We speak about these things naturally. But when it comes to the packaging of everything, I think that's the hardest part, because now it's not just us, it's also about the consumer. Yeah. It's also about the consumer. It should be used to our face. So that's why we try to put ourselves in as many thumbnails as we can. Just so that when they see our faces, then they know, okay, it's time these guys are gonna speak about something. There's something that they attach to us.
Demolish.
We are the brand. That's the thing. We are the brand.
So yeah, that's YEDIBE's
Any
process.
lifestyle or any part of yourself you guys had to change, since you guys are like, you all are the faces of
There hasn't been much we had to change, because we are doing what we've been doing since 2021.
It's 2021.
open
The exchanging of ideas.
in public eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, in public. Okay, I thought you were saying like in terms of how we communicate about YEDIBE. Nah, that hasn't been a challenge. But in terms of publicly, then usually I'm the one who's in front of the camera, and which is outside of my comfort zone. And I had to change even the way I speak, etc. The way you pronounce certain words, the way you twist your tongue. It's those little things which we overlook, which is a challenge, because I've been speaking like this for 18 years. And now I've started YEDIBE, I have to change the way I speak. Yeah, well.
Ask us about that.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, you have to change the way you speak.
The first episode we watched, we're like, shit, man, we speak like this.
Yeah.
We need to change the way we speak.
Even when you hear your voice.
Ew, it becomes awkward.
Even this.
Oh.
Those are just like.
It was yeah, when you hear your voice, it becomes disgusting, because I was the one editing, so I had to hear his voice and my voice.
Hey.
Go to a point where by mid editing, I'd turn off the phone, put it aside, and just sit there disgusted.
Yeah.
I'm not picking
Yo,
up.
it's weird. It is weird.
Anyanyisa, yacasula,
Yo,
okay.
yeah.
But that's what you actually find growth
Yeah.
out of the comfort.
Yeah.
That's
If you want
the best place.
to grow, pay yourself some pain.
If something is worth doing, it's worth doing poorly.
Mm.
Yeah.
If you don't want pain, go shrink. I remember I heard that somewhere. I don't know who said it. I forget quite a lot.
Yeah.
So
Climbing.
don't be
Politics.
don't be surprised if I steal your quotes.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised. I'll forget.
I'm guessing we're coming to an end of the podcast now, and there was a question from Kanisile, Masters. The question was, how would you guys better the country?
Well, since there can't be two presidents at one time, I'll start. What I would do is in South Africa, I would deregulate so it can be much easier for businesses to function and establish themselves. Along with deregulating, I'd reduce taxes. I would introduce something called the negative income tax, which is there's a threshold where you have to meet the threshold. Let's say you earn 15,000 per month. If you earn less than 15,000 a month, then government pays you a bonus on top of your salary. But I want to implement that on businesses. So, businesses can have more capital to work with. Another thing I would do is restructure the SASA system. I would restructure the SASA system so that it does not subsidize all the issues, the social issues that we've discussed today. Um, thirdly, or fourthly, whatever. I don't want to talk about women. Take it from me.
What I'd say is I'd remind people that the best way to better a nation is by making people want to become saints. Because I do think that a government is a bottom up type of civilization, especially democracy. It could be a top down, but most of them are bottom up. So if people are given
Explain
the
bottom up.
okay, the people make up the government, not that the king makes up the people. Yeah, well, the bottom um, develops the top part, not the top part developing the bottom part. So when you have individuals who are upholding their values at the lower level and on the individual level, a father tucking in his children into bed, a mother cooking for her family, and then everything on that lower level is going well, then everything at the top level will also go well.
Yes.
It's very hard to find a nation that is moral and that also has political and economic serious political and economic problems. So it's about people just bettering themselves on the lower level. I think the economy will follow, because if you just start at the economy, not that he wanted to start at the economy, but if you want to fix the economy to fix the people, then what will happen is the American route, whereby people will go Republican, they'll go Democrat, they'll go Republican, and they'll go Democrat, because they see the economy booming and they think maybe it's not this guy, and then they swing that way again. Yeah, so I wouldn't fix the country by becoming president. I would fix the country by fixing my household, and then hope that we can become the light of the world and the salt of the earth. I don't know. That's John Watt.
Yeah, so
Somewhere there.
what Tibiso has basically done is this is the difference between him and I. I'm much more analysis, data, economics, and technical, and he's much more socially, philosophy, politically, and etc. So what he has just done is establish the foundation of the same economy that I'm trying to build. So there's going to be that marriage. Hence why we believe that YEDIBE will be the best thing out there.
Yeah. Just because we are different. Well, thank you.
Yes.
It's a wrap. Don't forget to hit the like, share, and comment, please.
And follow their page.
Please
Go to
do it.
keep it, and we'll look at the facts, the truths, and the debates, and the criticism.
Yes.
That's what they say. It's a wrap.
And if you don't like politics, you'll find something else to like. I promise you.
Yeah. Subscribe to see what we are wrong about on other matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Resistance is futile. Subscribe.
Thank you for blessing us with your presence. And bye.
Thank you, gents. Thank you, gents.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, gents.
Bye.
It was a beautiful day.